Councillor Pitt. Your meeting is now live.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everyone. This is a meeting of the Culture, Leisure and Economic Development Portfolio at Portsmouth City Council, and I'm Councillor Steve Pitt, the Cabinet Member for that portfolio. Welcome to this meeting, which is being held virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Solicitor advised that this meeting will be run by reference to the model standing orders as set out in Local Authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meetings Regulations 2020 number 392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting, and there has been an opportunity for written representations to be submitted, and there are some of those today, and they will be read out in full by officers later in the meeting. Those present are requested to keep their microphones on mute and to only turn them on when they're called to speak. Members are requested to keep their cameras turned on at all times. Officers are requested to turn their cameras on only when they are presenting their reports or answering questions. If anyone would like to speak, I'm not going to use the standard protocol because it's extremely annoying. We have not got a vast number of councillors in the meeting today, so what we will do after each item, as I would normally do in a live meeting, I will refer to each of the opposition spokespeople in turn and give them an opportunity to make comments or raise questions accordingly. And members, remember that even after you've done that, if anything else crops up, if you just indicate to me by waving your hand, I'll come back to you. There's not a problem. Everybody will say everything they need to say. If there are any technical difficulties, which there may be, we will endeavour to resolve these, and where necessary we may have to have a brief adjournment. Okay, what we're going to do now is ask people to introduce themselves so that anyone watching this meeting on live stream is aware who's present. So I've already said who I am. We'll now ask the other councillors present to introduce themselves. They are the opposition spokespeople for this portfolio, and I'll go to Frank first.
Councillor Frank Jonas, opposition spokesman for the Conservatives.
And Stephen?
Councillor Stephen Morgan, Labour Group representative.
And Claire?
Councillor Claire UD, Portsmouth Progressive People Group representative.
Thank you all. We also have some officers present today who are here to offer up various reports to the portfolio, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Chrissy?
Hi, Chrissy McQueen, all studios.
Chrissy, just so you know,
manager and regulatory services.
Chrissy, just so you know, your live stream's breaking up, so when you get to your report, you might have to do it with your camera off. The next person we have with us is Jane Mee.
Good morning, I'm Jane Mee, Museums and Visitor Services Manager.
Okay, Sue Page.
Morning, it's Sue Page from Finance.
Laura.
Good morning, Laura Weston, Conan Doyle Collection Education and Outreach Officer.
Okay, and I think we've got Claire Looney with us today.
Good morning, Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager.
You're incredibly quiet, Claire. Could you try again? Just make sure we've got you.
Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager.
Okay, I've caught you out there, didn't
I?
That's all right, no worries. And now the Teams has just done something really annoying to me, so I can't see anybody else on the screen. Go away. Next one is David.
Good morning, David Morman. I'm the Strategic Development Manager for Sports and Leisure.
Okay, and then we've got Lisa with us taking care of the Democratic Services side of things.
Hi, Lisa Gallagher from Democratic Services.
Okay, you're a bit faint as well, Lisa, so you might need to
sorry.
turn up a bit later on. We've also got some guests with us today. We've got Rob Cunningham.
Good morning, everybody. Rob Cunningham, Head of Leisure for BH Live.
And Chris Simons is with us as well.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Simons, Chief Exec, BH Live.
Okay, and the only other person in the meeting is Peter.
Good morning. I'm just supporting the webcast.
Okay, thank you very much. We may be joined by Peter Balfe, the City Solicitor, at some point, and if we are, I'll ask him to introduce himself when he arrives. Okay, we have done the basics. Now we need to move into the meeting itself. I don't believe there are any apologies for absence today. Lisa?
No apologies. No apologies. Everyone's present today.
Okay, members, I'll ask you in turn to declare if you have any interests. Councillor Frank Jonas, any interests?
No interests, Cabinet Member.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Morgan
No interests.
and Councillor Claire Udy.
Personal but non-pecuniary. I am a customer of BH Live, but not signed up with the pyramids somewhere else.
Okay, thank you very much. Just before we move on to the first item before us today, just a procedural point. I'm going to move the pyramids item to the end of the meeting, purely because I expect there to be more discussion about that perhaps than some of the others, and we've got officers with us today who don't need to be here for that, and they've got other things that they could be doing with their time. So I hope that's all right with anyone. Has anybody got any objections? No. Okay, thanks. So Chris and Rob, you're welcome to pay attention, but you can go make a cup of tea if you need to. Okay, so in there, the next item then is item 3, and that's the Portsmouth Museum's annual review and forward plan. And I'm going to ask Jane Mee to present the officer's report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pitt. This is the annual review and update. So reviewing last year and plans for the current year. So as you'll all be very aware, last year, 2019-20, was dominated by the D-Day 75 commemorations, of which the D-Day Story, the new D-Day Story Museum, played a role. And this year, our activity has very much been shaped by the coronavirus pandemic, just by way of introduction. Thinking about our achievements in 2019-20, as I say, a big focus on activity at the D-Day Story, funded by our ongoing National Lottery Heritage Fund project. So we had a series of activities involving the community. So for example, the D-Day 75 community projects, which explore different aspects of D-Day and conflict more generally, led by the third of the project interns. More recently, the work of the Pigeon Squad, a group of young people led by writer-in-residence Steve Tassain, to retell the story of Gustav the Pigeon, leading to the publication of a children's book. Then also things associated with the Landing Craft Tank project, also lottery funded, including the D-Day Story tricycle and volunteers raising awareness of the Landing Craft Tank project throughout the city. The D-Day related activity also extended to Portsmouth Museum and Art Gallery, where notably we hosted the portraits of the D-Day veterans, commissioned by HRH Prince Charles. So they were on loan from the Royal Collection, and obviously that was very well received by visitors. And then later on, we opened Portsmouth Revisited, which included loans from Tate Britain, Sheffield Galleries and the Royal Collection. And very pleasingly, the Royal Collection funded conservation of one work for us to show, and it had never been on public display before. Normally, the lending institution would have to fund the cost of conservation, so that was quite a coup and demonstrated a real interest in what we were doing in the city, which was very good. Oh, and then also the arrival of the dodo skeleton just before lockdown, on loan from Cherry Records. Fortunately, we still have dodos, so we do have people coming in now to see it. We had a lot of building work carried out during the year. We also, as has been reported previously, work continued on the Wild About Portsmouth project to transform access to the natural history collections through improving standards of collection care and documentation, as well as a series of events and activities. So a total of just under 305,000 people visited our 6 sites last year, and visits to the D-Day Story would have achieved 100,000 had we not had to go into lockdown. I feel I have to say that for the D-Day Story team.
They're not quite over it.
Sorry?
They're not quite over it yet.
No, not quite over it, because it would have been so nice to have that figure. So looking to the current year, so the plans are shown in slightly more detail in Appendix 1, what I call the plan on a page. I think quite significantly for the museum service, the museum strategy is due for revision and update. And we started the process off by what we called a peer challenge review by a colleague from the Derby Museums Trust, and a facilitated workshop with staff. And we're currently carrying workshops out with the community to explore what makes the city special and what our approach should be going forward. What are the stories we should tell, and who do we want to reach and involve in that process? Obviously, landing craft tank comes to the fore this year. The conservation of the vessel is complete. It's arrived on site, and the 2 D-Day tanks, also conserved, have been put on board. So the next phase for us, as featured in a further report, is preparing for opening later this year, and developing a viable business plan in the light of COVID-19 and the reduced visitor numbers that we expect. And then we want to continue to develop new and existing audiences and find ways to engage more people more deeply with our work. And we're very lucky at present because we still have lottery funding for activity plans from 3 projects actually, and these have all been adapted and extended, reflecting the impact of COVID. So we're doing a lot more digitally, especially around the landing craft tank project. We also contributed digitally to the Heritage Open Day programme. The Collecting COVID-19 project is underway, and we're just about to open a display at Cascades to showcase the natural history collection. So that will open very, very shortly. And we're very keen, as part of that project, to demonstrate the potential of museums to animate and contribute to the regeneration of high streets in the same way that Southsea Library has in Southsea. We're also developing our staff. We want to raise standards of customer care and empower people. And we've introduced what we've called the Happy Museums project, which aims to set standards to which we aspire and equip staff to achieve them, just being a bit more clear about what we expect from our team. And we're also looking to adapt the performance development review form so it's actually more relevant to frontline staff in particular, so that the whole process is more meaningful to the team. And I think it's also very important, particularly for the landing craft tank project, we need the team of paid staff and unpaid volunteers to work as a single entity, and so we're investing time and effort in making sure that happens. And the other main thing really is preparing for accreditation. This is the national benchmark for museums in England. It's managed by the Arts Council. We were due to reapply in 2021, but this has been pushed back slightly. But we need to go through all our existing policies and plans, make sure they're up to date, and also there are some new ones that we will need to introduce. Thank you very much, Councillor Pitt.
Thanks very much, Jane, for a full report. I'll go to Councillor Frank Jonas first for any comments or questions.
Well, first of all, thank you, Jane, for a very thorough update and the plans that you have in mind for the museum. I was lucky enough to have a tour of the landing craft. It is phenomenal. There's no other way about it. If you get up on the bridge and look through the small port at the poor man that had to steer that thing, it's absolutely amazing. So I think it's going to be a terrific attraction. And I just think the people of Portsmouth and the visitors will just have so much to see and enjoy about the thing. So, yeah, thank you.
I completely agree with you, Frank. That was the wow moment for me as well. The first time I went on there and looked through that tiny little hole that he had to see through to land on a beach where all hell was breaking loose. It really does bring the whole thing in sharp focus. So I completely agree with you on that. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thank you, Steve. I just wanted to thank Jane and team. I believe that our museums are our heart and soul of our city. So thank you for what you and volunteers are doing in very challenging circumstances.
Thank you. Councillor Udy.
Not much of a comment, but thank you for your report, Jane, and keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Jane. Actually, one of the highlights that for me was the charter being there and the reading out of it in Old English. It was quite a thing, and I think I haven't missed anything. I managed to get down to everything either side of the pandemic. And if anyone's watching on live streaming, you haven't been to Portsmouth Revisited 2 yet, please go along. There's some great things. And you will find that both Councillor Morgan and I are featured in the Plagues of Southsea, which is for better or worse, I may add. I don't think either of us would necessarily have chosen to pick ourselves in that way. But Pete Codling's done an amazing job on it, and it's really stunning. So if you're in the area, please go and visit the museum, and it's incredibly well set up to be COVID safe. You'll feel very relaxed while you're in there. Thank you, Jane, and the recommendations are all accepted on your report, so thank you very much indeed. I'm juggling 3 different pieces of technology today, so please forgive me while I scroll on to the next one. The next one is item 4 on the agenda, so that's the museum collection development, and that's back with you, Jane.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pitt. This report is an update on some activity around collections development. The report considers 3 collections: collecting in relation to COVID-19, the mounting collection of domestic items, and also a review of the handling collection. The first paragraph just sets out what we collect and why, and some of the constraints that we collect under. So the constraints in some ways are a positive thing, because they ensure that we collect material that is relevant to the city, but also material that we have the resources to care for properly. And it just reminds us that the decisions around disposal, in particular of items from the collection, have to be made by the museum's governing body. And this is part of our the accreditation standard. So looking at the 3 different collections, the COVID-19 material, it's a really, obviously a once in a lifetime opportunity to collect whilst a significant event is actually taking place, rather than doing it retrospectively. So as soon as lockdown began, we went into partnership with the archives to develop plans to collect objects and material relating to COVID-19. And we've been offered a very wide range of material, including art produced during lockdown, homemade face coverings, face shields, etc., and as well as signage produced by local companies. And social media has been really important in terms of what we've collected. And actually the process of obtaining the items has also been interesting, because obviously we've had to do it with social distancing in place. So in some ways that's advising members really of what we're ongoing work. But as I say, it's a really nice opportunity. Sorry, I mean, nice isn't necessarily quite the right word, but it's a really good opportunity to collect as something is unfolding. The mounting collection. So this is a formal request for disposal. This is a collection that we acquired immediately after the Blitz, when a lot of our, well, the majority of our collection was destroyed by a bomb that fell on the museum. And we put a call out for material. So this collection was given by Mrs. Mountain of Tunbridge Wells, Kent. It's a group of domestic items, but unfortunately, there is no accompanying information with this collection. It's a large collection, it's occupying a lot of space. And since it was given, we've collected material that is far more relevant to the city, with good provenance, and has a resonance with the city and the story of the city. We therefore feel there's no real merit in retaining this collection, other than a handful of items that we would like to keep, and therefore we would like to dispose of it in accordance with the council's collection development policy, in which we would firstly offer it to other museums, in the hope that there would be another accredited museum that would want it. And obviously the museum in Tunbridge Wells will be a starting point for that process. So we will be following the council's formal policy with respect to this collection. And then just as an update, really, the handling collection, it's a huge collection of objects that's been required over a long period of time. It's occupying a lot of space, and it actually hasn't been processed, so a lot of it has never been used. So the intentions have been good, but the implementation application has been not. And I just feel it's something we need to get our heads round. Fortunately, we've had some money from the lottery linked to one of our other projects and backfilling a member of staff, which has enabled us to appoint somebody to go through this collection. And I must admit, he's going through it like a dose of salt. we're not planning to get rid of everything. We want to keep some items, and we have devised a formal process for deciding the future of different objects. So some of them will be offered to other museums, but some of them are in, we feel the value of them is less. So for example, they might go to a charity shop. If something's in extremely a poor state of repair or something, we may consider putting it in the bin. But we're keen to make sure that these objects are used in a worthwhile fashion going forward. Some of them may be sold if other museums don't want them, but our primary purpose really is freeing up resources. It's not really about income. I hope, yeah, so that's all I need to say, I think, Councillor Pitt.
Okay, thanks, Jane. I'll go to Councillor Jonas again first then.
Well, yeah, straightforward enough. I'm sure that Jane and her team has enough expertise to decide what's junk and what's not, and you know, carry on. As long as we don't get a letter from Tunbridge Wells saying they're angry, which used to appear in most papers.
Yes, I'd remembered that one as well, Councillor Jonas. Councillor Morgan.
No formal comments, but I know there was a generous offer at the informal briefing for Councillor Rudy to work through the lawn mowers and the chimney pots, so I hope she's done that, Jane.
Yes. Okay, Councillor Udy.
Please hit me up, send me an email. I'm more than happy to help because it's my dream job, 100%. I would chuck away my law masters right now just to do that for the rest of my life. Thank you.
There you go, Jane. You have a very firm offer there from Councillor Udy to come and help.
Thank you very much, I will take you up.
Especially with the chimney pots and the lawnmowers. Okay, so I didn't follow the process exactly on the last item, for which I apologise, but these things are a bit of a moving feast in the way they're updated. So I'm supposed to actually note the 3 recommendations, and they are around the COVID collection, so that's noted. The rationalisation of the handling collection is noted, and approval is given for the disposal of the mountain collection in the most appropriate way by Jane and the museums team. So thank you, Jane. I think we're now back with you again because we have landing craft tank and the exciting preparations around opening. So back with you.
Yeah, so this is a for information report only. As you say, just to describe the preparations for the opening of landing craft tank. So as you all know, she has arrived. All the conservation work is complete, including the conservation work on the 2 D-Day Story tanks. Obviously, plans and programmes have been affected by COVID, but anyway, nonetheless, she's here, she's with us. The original report talked about an October opening date. There has been some slippage. She will definitely be open before the end of the year and hopefully sooner rather than later. Don't really want to commit to any further dates in light of my shortcomings so far. So the plans for preparation are, there are 2 posts associated with this, with the project. They're funded by the project initially, then they will become permanent. So they're both recruited and in post. And we are also now bringing back the D-Day Story volunteers. Obviously, we need to familiarise them with the operation of the landing craft tank, but we also need to familiarise them with all the practices associated with COVID-19 and protecting themselves and others from risk. So that's very exciting, actually, and obviously some of the volunteers are really desperate to get back. We still have to finalise the number of the number of people that can be allowed on board at any one time. This is in terms of, without COVID as well as with COVID. Quite an important piece of work for us because we are responsible for the operation. So our partner, the National Museum of the Royal Navy, has done their bit really in getting the landing craft tank to the D-Day Story. We're responsible for the operation and for generating the income that allows us to operate her, but also generates a surplus for future maintenance. So it's a bit of a movable feast, but we are focused on that. We've done some market testing. We've reviewed prices to reflect the arrival of landing craft tank, including the price of the annual pass. A number of marketing plans have been produced over time. The last one really focused on the move in some detail, but we now need to prepare ourselves for sort of the normal operation of landing craft tank as part of the D-Day Story. obviously we're very interested in joint ticketing with the historic dockyard and with our partner, the National Museum of the Royal Navy. And just to reassure members that through the delivery of the activity plan associated with this project, we will continue to engage with harder to reach audiences, both virtually and in person where possible. So although the commercial operation of the vessel matters, it also matters that this is something that benefits the whole of the city and people can have a relationship with and make a contribution to in one way and another. And that, that's very important to the museum service. Thank you, Councillor Pitt.
Thank you, Jane. Certainly getting exciting. Councillor Jonas.
Welcome the report and looking forward greatly to its official opening.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you for the report, Jane. I mean, it's such a fitting tribute to those that served in D-Day and Operation Overlord, and obviously a fantastic new asset to our city. So, as you know, I'm committed to getting the Trust and the National Museum over the line on the funding and also raising the profile of this brilliant asset for our city. So I'll continue to do what I can.
Thank you for that. Councillor Udy.
Thank you for your report. It's a bit of a shame that it's not open this October half term, because I was planning to take my kids to the D-Day story because we're doing the Where's Wally thing there and something for the kids to do and they'll really enjoy it. But we can go and see it again because I have walked past it and it is huge, isn't it? It's bigger than I thought it was going to be and puts things into perspective. Definitely. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Could I just say, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Udy, you can buy your annual pass now and then pop back to visit Landing Flat Out when it opens.
Well, there you go. Do you do Tesco? Do you take Tesco car vouchers, or is that just the dockyard?
I'll process something we could look into. Why not? Okay, thanks. Just a couple of comments from me. I think we should place on record a huge congratulations and thanks to everybody that's been involved in getting her to this point, and good luck to everyone who's involved in getting her ready to finally open to the public so everybody can see what the privileged few of us so far have seen, and that is what's going to be an amazing visitor experience and a very welcome asset for South Seafront. So thank you very much for the report, Jane. Good luck to you and the team over the next few weeks. I know somebody's going to start banging something, so if anyone's watching, I apologise for the building work in the background. So thank you and everyone for what you've done and what you're going to do over the next few weeks, and we very much look forward to that opening, albeit that it may be not on the grand scale that I'd hoped for. I have visions of brass bands and bunting and making it a proper British celebration of a D-Day hero coming home, but unfortunately we'll have to do that in a scaled back way. But perhaps you could look into a brass band recording, so at least we've got something for atmosphere. That would be really good. So in terms of the report, it is duly noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I said at the beginning, I'm moving the pyramids item to the end so that we can spend more time on that. And item 7 is over to Laura, and that's the Arthur Conan Doyle collection update.
Hello. The purpose of this report is to update you all on the move of the You Don't Know Sherlock Holmes exhibition to the 3rd floor in the Central Library, which happened just in the nick of time before lockdown. It is now renamed as Holmes at Home to stop any confusion about it being an exact replica of what was in the museum. And also, we can't have interactives at the moment, unfortunately, because of the COVID risk. We will endeavour to get those in as soon as it is safe to do so. We are also hoping, so we did originally say in the report that we would have an opening in October. We are now going to combine this in December to mark the anniversary of Study in Scarlet, which was written in Portsmouth. We have also been very busy over the COVID lockdown, looking through all our many resources that we've collated over the years and put together study packs for all of schools. So we have Key Stage 1 to 4. They have gone out via social media. They are on the museum's website, and they are also available via email. We've had quite a good uptake. It also went out through the school library service, and they sent them out to all of the schools in Portsmouth, and that has been very interesting. Along with, I worked with lots and lots of volunteers. We haven't really stopped. over lockdown, we've had one volunteer in particular who has absolutely carried on with our social media strategy. She's promoted absolutely everything throughout lockdown and has continued to do so still. So it's increased our hits to our website. It's been really, really interesting. We are also, we managed to take on 2 extra volunteers who were the students who are between courses, and they've been writing adult study packs. So that is for vulnerable people who are still shielding or isolating, and they can be used for other projects in the future as well. We also are continuing with the end of the City of Stories Arts Council funded bid. We have had an extension to continue and finish that project. We have a dancer in residence who is hopefully about to start after half term, and that will be working with young people physically in a COVID secure way, or actually via Zoom to compile. We've also just recruited a filmmaker who will put together an end of project celebratory film, which will capture the essence of the last 2 years and the hundreds of projects that we've achieved. And also he will capture the dance project as well. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Laura. Councillor Jonas.
Just like to thank Laura for a very good explanation of how we're doing with the Conan's Oil, and hopefully in the future can only get better. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thank you, Laura, for the report. I think it's very thorough and welcome the proposals within it.
Thank you. Councillor Udy.
Thank you for the report, and I look forward to seeing it.
Cool. Just to add, slightly disappointing year because of COVID. We were hoping to start building that business case around developing a permanent location for us to make even more of the Doyle collection that we have. And this was part of that process, and it's a really important part of that process. But hopefully we can still pick that up from December, and it'd be very interesting to see how it works in a different space that's not the museum where people are used to seeing the items displayed. So we'll look forward to an update on once it's been open at some point in the spring, Laura, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for that, and keep up good work. And can you pass on our personal thanks to that volunteer who's worked so hard during lockdown to keep everything going for you?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed for being here today. Okay, and that's it from Laura then. We're now on to the reports noted for the minutes. Item 8, the Hot Wall Studio update. And that's Chrissy McQueen.
Good morning, Councillor Pitt. I'll not turn my video on to hopefully get a better connection, but
Yeah, we
you'll
can
have
hear you.
to let me know if it drops out. We've brought this information-only report for the Hot Wall Studios to update on the work that we're doing mainly through the national lockdown for the coronavirus pandemic. But yeah, the support that we've given to our artists and other organisations that we've worked with as well. Firstly, to talk about our Pause, Reflect, Create project, which we applied to the Arts Council in England emergency funds project. We wanted to be able to support our artists financially, but also be able to have some legacy that came out of that project. The idea behind it was that we can we've got 21 artists at the Hot Wall Studios, and it was to be able to commission a piece of work from each of them in response, so their response and their situation through lockdown, but also how it reflected on the city as well. The idea was that would come out digitally, as well as having a physical exhibition at the end of the project as well. We were hoping to have that physical exhibition in November, but we've now actually pushed that towards beginning of next year. As everybody is aware, we sort of have ever-changing situation with COVID-19. So we'll be able to see that physically at the beginning of next year. However, weekly we have digital updates through our social media and our website, talking with individual artists about how they're creating the work and the effect that lockdown had for them as well. So this was a good way to be able to support artists creatively and financially through the lockdown, and we were very pleased to be able to give that support to them. Another area that we worked in supporting artists was we worked closely with Portsmouth Creates on their We Believe Arts Trail across the city. So we had a bit more of an admin role through this, but we also provided resources through free poster sites across the city as well. This was a successful campaign for Portsmouth Creates. Artists to be micro commissioned for artwork that would be on show across the city. This led to 3 trails, one across Old Portsmouth, one in Milton, and one around the Southsea Castle area. So we saw a really wide range of work that was on display for the public to be able to see, to be able to engage with when they were coming out for their daily exercise, and also again to capture that social dynamic that the pandemic had on Portsmouth and on creatives as well. And actually both the Pause, Reflect, Create work and the We Believe work will be donated to the Portsmouth Museum's COVID-19 collection, so there'll be a legacy for the artists and also for people of Portsmouth to be able to see that in the future. Lastly was to talk about some of the support that we gave to the Hot Walls Studios businesses throughout lockdown. There was a huge amount of advice coming out. Some seemed conflicting and not throughout that whole beginning of lockdown, where funding was available, how people could operate. So it was really our role through that to work one-to-one with each of the artists and guide them towards appropriate funding, also help them to understand the risks to themselves, their business, their customer, their visitors, and really support them in their decision making throughout that whole time. We were very fortunate that each of those businesses qualified for the small business grant from the central government. So that was a huge win for our individual studios, and we feel went a long way to be able to help them secure and stay at the Hot Wall Studios. We did lose 3 artists through the COVID pandemic at the beginning, but I'm happy to say we've got 3 new artists that will be joining us in October, next week actually, yes, Tuesday. So we'll have some new artists for people to come down and meet when we have our open studios, which we have also resumed as well. And happy to take any questions from anybody.
Thank you, Chrissy. Go to Councillor Frank Jonas.
Well, I'd like to thank Chrissy for the report, and also I've no doubt that the artists in the Hot Walls have been very grateful for all the hard work that you've done to keep the interest going and to keep them there. So congratulations, Chrissy, and a good report.
Thank you.
Frank. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. Welcome to the report, Chrissy. Thanks ever so much. And I think the questions I raised were answered in the informal briefing, so thanks for that.
Thank you.
And Councillor Kayudi, please.
Just thank you for your report. Cheers.
Thanks, Chrissy, and thanks also to Molly, who I know has been a big help to you over the last few months as well. And good luck with the projects that you've got coming up with that additional funding, which is very welcome to see. And the feedback from the artists that I've seen is that they felt incredibly well supported, and that's really helped them, not just in terms of their businesses, but in terms of mental health support around a very difficult time for a lot of people, particularly in cultural and creative industries, and that the camaraderie and support that they have down there is very, very much appreciated. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we are now going back to the last, which is our last item, item 6, and that's the Pyramids and Eastney Pool Capital Schemes update. We've got David Morman with us to present the report, and I'll then ask Chris Simons, the Chief Executive of BH Live, if you'd like to add any additional comments, and then I'll go to members for comments and questions. Is that all okay with everyone? Yeah, David, over to you.
Thanks, Councillor Pitt. So yeah, this report primarily concerns the pyramids, but also Eastney Pool. Both facilities appear on the capital programme, and so this report is to update the committee with developments on each scheme. But before I do that, I need to read 3 written deputations to the committee. The first is from Annie Bradrick. Councillors, on the 23rd of September, the news broke on Facebook of the proposed closure of the Pyramid Centre. That was bad enough, but the letter from Councillor Pitt turned people's sadness and disbelief to that of anger and resistance. We were told the decision had been made, and it didn't matter how many people objected or petitioned. That was the red rag to the bull. I feel he went to a lot of trouble to present a fait accompli, but in fact those words opened a can of worms. I worry that 10 people are allowed to decide any issue out of hand. That these 10 people have an allegiance to a party called Liberal Democrats is almost comical in this instance. The Mountbatten Centre is a multifunctional building which helps to spread costs. The Pyramids has a spa which has foot spas with a heated seat. Comical if it wasn't so serious. Councillor Pitt, in a personal reply to me, you said, and I quote, I am absolutely committed to investing in a leisure facility that will provide swimming for all ages and abilities in the southeast of the city, but that money is best spent replacing Eastney Pool, which is also at end of life, with a new facility which we won't have to knock down in 10 years' time. So why, Councillor Pitt, didn't you do that first and then knock down the pyramids? Perhaps we could have a date of when this might come about, because as of spring next year, the southeast of the city is going to be devoid of a family pool and the music lovers of a concert hall. I have spent the last 3 weeks writing emails to all and sundry and am spent. The comments on the media have reiterated over and over again our personal views on the decline of the last 5 years of this unique pool. You cannot fail to be au fait with them, but you have not once apologised for the failure of this administration to look after this grand old lady. You expect us to accept your analysis and figures at face value. You have no guarantees that this soft play area and extended gym will indeed make a profit. It is again a standalone project with no facilities for people of all ages. Is it really credible that at such a location there is only one alternative, a giant soft play? With no vaccine, we're going to be facing COVID-19 for some time to come, and a soft play area will be difficult to regulate. This administration had the ideal opportunity to revamp this building into a multifaceted sports complex, but as things stand, you, the Cabinet, have decided to take this decision alone and without any consultations except those between yourselves and BH Live. So I hope you'll take it on the chin when in future your decision is viewed as a monumental mistake.
Thank you, David. Next
second deputation is from Peter and Margaret Viner. In common with many other council taxpayers in Portsmouth, we were shocked to hear about the decision to turn the pools at the Pyramids into a soft play area and the plaza an extra gym, without recourse to the people of Portsmouth. This will be just adding an extra venue to a sector with many outlets in the city, most of which have free parking. In his report, printed in the news, Councillor Pitt said, and we quote, "We're committed to provide fantastic sport and leisure facilities for all residents. As very disappointed patrons, we can state that the swimming facilities for all residents, and especially the elderly and disabled in this city, are abysmal. We are left with 3 pools. Mountbatten in the north, open but not viable for many elderly and disabled due to thin vertical steps into the pool. Charter, attached to the school and not available for public swimming during the day. And Eastney, closed. Eastney, although old, is better, but we are getting conflicting answers to our queries. We have no respect for BH Live, who fob us off with untruths. We have senior annual passes from BH Live that cost us nearly £300 each and used by us only for swimming. It has been a shocking experience. Swimming venues closed without notice due to either staff shortages, only 2 needed at Eastney, or water quality. We and many others in our situation would appreciate honest answers concerning these facts, and we hope that COVID is not given as a response. That will pass eventually. Third deputation is from Mr. R. Gush. The agenda for Friday's Cabinet Member for Culture meeting has been published and it includes a report on the pyramids. There is a lot of information in the report relating to the history of the site, the issues with its current setup and why the decision has been made. It is interesting that the report is for information only and it is stated the decision has already been taken and presumably it is too late to be changed. It is quite remarkable that such a significant decision about the provision of council services and commitment of millions in taxpayer cash can be made behind closed doors without any opportunity for formal input from other councillors or members of the public. May I ask why this has been the case on this occasion? The report seems to justify this on the grounds of needing to respond to the emerging priority of the pyramids, although it is not explained what is meant by this. Could this be explained, please? This approach to decision making has clearly been signed off by council officers, so I can only assume it is both legal and constitutional, but it doesn't strike me as particularly good governance. I understand that the proposed change of use has been in the pipeline since last year, so why not engage the public at a much earlier stage, i.e. before the decision was made, and give people the opportunity to have their say about what they want to happen. After all, this report was published on democracy.portsmouth.gov.uk. However, it seems from the outside to have been an undemocratic process which has led to the decision. To summarise, could I ask for the grounds for needing to respond to the emerging priority of the pyramids to be explained, please? And could I also please ask for an explanation in regards to the lack of consultation about such a loved and cherished provision and why other councillors or members of the public were not given the opportunity to give input? Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, David. There are specific questions in that third deputation. Do you feel that your presentation of your report will address those?
I think it will. I think we should probably press on and see if there's anything not touched on at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Please proceed.
Thank you. So the first point to make is to acknowledge that this report is for information only. I've been instructed by the Council City Solicitor and the Section 151 officer that the decision included in this report, that is the reallocation of money between capital schemes, is a delegated decision which is taken by the Cabinet Member in consultation with the Section 151 officer, and this report is the means for reporting on that decision. The report's quite long, but I'll touch briefly on the earlier sections as they provide context and background to the later sections. It's well understood that physical activity is an important element of a healthy lifestyle, and local and national policies make recommendations about levels of activity. Portsmouth lags behind regional and national levels of physical activity, particularly among children. Physical activity plays an important role in tackling obesity, which is linked with a number of health issues and in particular at the moment with poor outcomes from COVID-19. Levels of obesity in Portsmouth are higher than national and regional averages, particularly among children. The availability of quality sports and leisure facilities in places where people can access them is essential. Turning to Portsmouth facilities, despite the success of the current operator BH Live in driving up gym membership and participation in gymnastics, tennis and other activities, there are issues with some of the facilities in Portsmouth that are threatening future growth and financial sustainability. Building condition surveys since 2018 have revealed serious concerns. Eastney swimming pool is in poor condition and in particular the roof is fast approaching end of life. The estimated cost required to continue to operate the pool is £850,000. A full structural survey has been undertaken and the report is due imminently, and there remains the very real possibility that this will reveal still more problems. The pyramids requires £1.3 million of work to remain operational, mainly due to mechanical and electrical plant and some building fabric works like flooring. In addition, while not covered by this report, Wimbledon Park Sports Centre has an estimated £700,000 worth of works required to keep it open. So these three facilities need nearly £3 million spent on them in the next 3 to 7 years just to remain open, yet this will be largely unseen by the users and will have little effect on improving the customer experience. Looking at swimming, participation is declining nationally and in Portsmouth. For leisure pools, i.e. ones without lanes, this decline is steeper, and at the pyramids, participation in swimming has fallen by 33% in the last 3 years. Turning briefly to health and fitness centres, participation nationally is relatively stable, and in Portsmouth we've seen a rise in the use of gyms over the last few years, mainly due to the good performance of the large modern Mountbatten Centre gym. So the situation at the pyramids is that we have a building that's over 30 years old. It will require at least £1.3 million spent on it to remain open. The council is responsible for buildings maintenance and spent £2.1 million over the last 7 years on the pyramids. The pyramid swimming pool is very expensive to run. There is a long-term decline in customers, which makes the pool commercially unviable. In its current format, the pyramid loses around £700,000 a year, and there is no budget for this subsidy. The unavoidable conclusion is that we cannot afford to reopen the Pyramid swimming pool. An independent options appraisal in 2019 concluded that we should close the pyramids. But what are the alternatives? Well, we could do what we planned and spent the allocated 1.4 million on the essential works required to keep the centre open, but this wouldn't impact on the trading deficit and is costed over 10 years at £13.8 million. We could go further and do a full refurbish, and this would likely see a 10 to 15% increase in customers, but this would not be enough to make a significant dent in the trading deficit. This would require £4 million in capital, which we don't have, and is costed over 10 years at £14.8 million. We could accept that the pool is financially unviable and close it, whilst keeping the gym and the Plaza events place open. This would result in a net loss of leisure facility to the city, but is affordable and is costed over 10 years at £780,000. We could close and demolish the pyramids. This would be a major loss of sports and leisure space in the city, but is affordable. This would require £500,000 capital and a 10-year cost of the option is £700,000. In early 2020, BH Live approached the council with one other alternative: to convert the swimming pool into an indoor adventure centre and convert the underused Plaza event space into a large modern gym. This will continue to provide a family-friendly offer while tapping into latent demand for gym space in the area and with more space for group exercise. This proposal is projected to return the pyramids to an operating profit after its first year of operation and has been costed at £2.6 million capital, and its 10-year cost is £6.5 million. This makes BH Live's proposal as the clear preferred option based on its finances and the fact it will keep the building open in full. £1.4 million has already been allocated for the refurbishment, which leaves £1.2 million funding gap if we are to choose this option. And due to COVID-19, there are a number of capital schemes that are either not going ahead or are going to be delayed by several years. The Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Economic Development, in association with the Section 151 officer, has agreed to move capital from these redundant schemes to the Pyramid's capital allocation, along with a contribution from the Pyramid's maintenance reserve. This will allow the £2.6 million projected cost of BH Live's proposal to be met. In conclusion, the only affordable option available to the council, which keeps the pyramids open fully, is BH Live's proposal, and so officers are proceeding with this proposal. At this stage, I'd like to invite Chris Simons from BH Live to join and address the committee.
Thank you, David. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Councillor. Good morning, everyone. David, have you got a brief slide presentation?
Yes, just trying to work on the tech. I'll try and share my screen.
Technology. And whilst you're trying to load this up, I think we need to qualify the context of this. This isn't a response to COVID from a leisure operator's position. This is a response to what is referred to as a grand old lady. It's a 30-year-old leisure pool that was built at a time when we was in a completely different space, both economically, in terms of customer use, and in terms of environmental sustainability. The decline in the pyramids, as well as national swimming, has been well documented by Sport England and more locally by ourselves and the council. And when I first joined the organisation nearly 2 years ago, the pyramids was the obvious problem to solve. And I understand that there's a lot of local love for this building. I've worked in leisure for 30 years. I've used many venues such as this, including the pyramids, and I understand why there's a lot of local attachment to it. However, this building hasn't got a long-term viable life unless we do something to it. The proposition that we've put forward is twofold. One is to try and create something exciting here that both parties can be proud of. The other is to reduce the cost of operating this venue. Now, just as a small example, the energy bills for the pyramids in August this year, where we were just running the gym, was some 80 to 90% lower than the energy cost at this time last year when the pools were open. So that kind of cost differential really does move the £650,000 reduction down to break even to profit. And that's before we look at some of the fantastic opportunities we've got for creating something really special here. I won't go through these in too much detail, but the visuals in here, these are of live venues that either myself or the teams worked on in developing. And I suppose for local context, the nearest one is Enjoy in Southampton. who actually one of our consultants worked on designing. But if you can just flick through, David, because you've got the controls, unless I've got them.
Is that working? Can you hear?
Can you go to the next page?
Yeah.
I'm still seeing the first page. I don't know about anyone else.
Okay. Let me try and.
If you go onto slideshow.
Yeah, I was trying to do the slideshow.
Can you click on the side of the screen? Just click on the that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to do the proper slideshow, but there you go.
And you know, we won't dwell on these visuals. As I say, these are based upon other similar schemes, and the actual detail of what the look and feel of is part of this procurement process and the design going forward. But you know, it's to create something to be excited about. At the moment, we've got a pool hall in ongoing decline. I think last year's figures were about 75,000 visits. The bulk of the cost of running this venue is in the pool. It was designed at a time when leisure budgets were significantly subsidised by local authorities. An example would be the number of lifeguard positions when this place is in full tilt. I think it'd be between about 10 and 15. Those kind of venues just can't economically exist anymore, and these are just not being built. There's been one built similar to this in the last 5 years in England. There's no more on the table, and that was a £40 million build as part of a long-term planning position. Now, that's not to say that this programme of a new build may be something several years down the line, but it's a substantial capital investment. The relocation of our services and some of the things that we do there at the moment across the city, specifically in the pool, has been largely done. This is as a result of COVID, but we've had little or no complaints on that, especially from things like swimming lessons and casual swim. In terms of the plaza, I won't go through every bullet point there, but it was of a time. It's a mid-sized venue. There's a lot more live event venues around the area, and just to bring the AV and staging up to scratch to welcome touring bands is close to £500,000. So, you know, the opportunity to do nothing is not there. The opportunity to create something really quite special is there in a place in terms of health and fitness that, whilst there's lots of gyms in the city, this will be, I would suggest, the best available, and it would significantly outperform its previous membership and usage levels. The play and bounce is obviously, I suppose, the contentious part of this, although equal benefit of this scheme is in the health and fitness and the development of that side of the project. But I understand why the play and bounce is probably more contentious, because the fun pool has moved on. When we looked at this, one of the key things to try and do was to replicate a fun offer and an active offer for as many age groups as we can, and also to account for South Sea's tourism and destination venue ambitions, as well as the wet weather venue opportunity that the Pyramid provides to visitors in the area. Again, I'm not going to go through every bullet point on there. I know that you've received reports and you've seen the issues. The other thing I think is worth touching on is the ability to improve significantly the access, both in terms of disability and in terms of things like multi-sensory rooms and activity spaces for either special needs groups and or parent and carers as individuals to come along to the venue. These things just don't exist in the current sense. Again, I won't go through these and read out every line. So this is just, again, these are the product lines that will be put into the play and bounce area. There's 3 core areas. It's a trampoline park / ninja activity space, and that goes right the way through from kind of 6-year-olds up until corporates or adults if they want to use it for dodgeball and other events. So there is an element of an all-age offer. Then there's a mid-age group in the core, which is the fixed frame areas, and then you've got the toddlers and the soft play at the other end. That really is an ongoing daily offer, which just doesn't exist for those 3 age groups at the moment. So just clicking onto the health and fitness. Again, this is something that will be very special for Portsmouth. Mountbatten Gym is fantastic. This will make Mountbatten Gym look quite pedestrian, to be frank. What we've got here is a creation of a 10-zone area using the space that we've got there, and it will be a mixture of upscale health and fitness and boutique offers. So at the moment, if anyone knows the leisure sector, there's lots of immersive spin, there's HIIT studios, there's yoga studios out there, all attracting our customers and our residents. This is bringing all of the best bits of those into a single location, but making it fully accessible on the current membership program that we offer across the city. So I've worked in leisure for 30 years. This will be up there as amongst one of the best gyms in the country. Again, pay-as-you-go options will be available, as will an extended teenager program. And I think it's important not to forget the health needs of the city, and this is half of this proposed development. So it's an important part not to be forgotten. Again, these are just visuals on some of the areas that will be created. And if any of you know the current gym, the Pyramids, I think now it's about 10 years old. And it's whilst popular, it's probably not what neither party would want to put their names to as their premier gym. So there's the summary from a very quick run through. I note that a discussion, or in one of the deputations, it was suggested that we've been working on this for a couple of years. Well, in terms of an idea as to what do you do to solve the problem, which is the Pyramids, this, from our position as an operator, to get a live state-of-the-art venue at a low capital cost, which will reduce the deficit through to zero and then get into a profitable position, is the answer. It's certainly better than the proposed closures, as per the independent consultants, and across the UK, as a result of COVID at the moment, there's about 1,500 public leisure centres under threat of permanent closure. So this option, I think, is, whilst a tough decision to make, I think it's the right time and the right project. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Chris. David, did you have anything you wanted to add before I go to the members?
No, thank you, Councillor Pitt.
Okay, Councillor Frank Jonasson, please.
Cabinet Member, first of all, I'd like to thank the deputies for their deputations, and also congratulate BH Live on their ambitious plans. But I feel I must go back to what the sort of, shall we say, the furor has been stirred up. If we close this pool, it's closed forever. We lose a wet facility. Whether it's viable or not, obviously, I don't know. I'm not an expert. But to build a new one would be horrendous cost. I'm into classic vehicles, and to restore a classic vehicle is cheaper than building a new one. And I feel the same with the pool. And I would hope that the Cabinet Member would explore every avenue there is to see if it could be financially viable to restore it. It's a catch-22. Yes, the numbers are declining that visit. The reason is it's often closed. There's been nothing done to the fumes as far as replacing rusty bolts and everything with stainless steel stuff. So I'm just asking the Cabinet Member, has he gone through every avenue to see? Because once this is closed, it's gone. Again, like one of the deputies said, if we had an up and running new facility to replace the Eastleigh baths, obviously this wouldn't be quite so bad. But what it looks like here is we're going to lose the Pyramids, lose Eastleigh baths, and we all know how long it takes to build a swimming facility, and that would leave the south of Portsmouth bereft of any swimming facilities. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Just so that members know, I think because of the amount of, who's not muted, by the way, because I'm getting a load of background chatter. Oh, thank you, whoever that was. Oh no, it started again. Somebody, I'm getting a loop back. Is somebody not on mute, please? 1, 2. Yes, it's gone. Thank you, whoever that was. Much appreciated. It's bad enough listening to my voice once and mine twice. Just so you know, at the end, I'm very aware of all these comments that have been made on social media, in the press, and the discussion at full council on Tuesday. And I will be making quite a long statement at the end of this meeting to try and address all of the issues that have been raised and provide a context, because I think people deserve a proper answer. So I won't answer those questions now, Frank, but I think I do in that comment that I'll make at the end of the meeting. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, David, and representatives from BH Live for the presentations this morning. I mean, you'll know that the Labour Group has already said that we have concerns that this decision was made behind closed doors without bringing it for public discussion, member scrutiny, engagement with the wider community, and after listening to the views of local users. And in our view, that is poor decision making. The council rightly on Tuesday voted unanimously, I think, with Lib Dems abstaining on this process being regrettable, and the consultation being regrettable, and lack of it too. Whatever we think about the decision, we've heard powerful written deputations today making their own case, and we've all had emails and correspondence from constituents. As one wrote to me, clearly a lot of residents would like the council to at least debate this more openly. Their blinkered option is not going down well with residents who, let's face it, will foot the bill. So finally, I think the Labour Group believes that governing inevitably involves tough decisions, and the Labour Group believes that it's always better to do that with.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Udy.
Oh yeah, I've spoken about pyramids loads, spoken about it on Tuesday, spoken standing up for you online, Steve, haven't I? It's tired me out. So basically, I can't be bothered speaking about pyramids anymore. So I'm going to talk about Eastney instead, because we need to focus on Eastney now, because we might be told that Eastney might be just a bit too old and might need rebuilding. And I just want a promise, just a promise from you, Councillor Pitt, that if that may be the case, that we'll have some form of swimming facility that will be in that area of the city. I don't know if you even think about a fun pool, but that would be cool, but I know you probably can't afford that. But I just want to reassure residents also on disabled provision. I know we have hoists on pools and stuff, but obviously, as the Pyramids was, it was the only walk-in pool in Portsmouth, and that's quite a serious thing. Also, I just want to bring up kind of like comparisons about costing and stuff. And I brought this up at full council, like, you kept the Pyramids open for 10 years, what was it, about 13, 14 million? And I think about the Lido a lot. I've got a lot of love for the Lido, and our Lido needs some help, even though it's with the trust. And to think that we could spend 13, 14 million on the Pyramids and not even kind of touch the Lido, and maybe even help them out a little bit and make it into provision where it's like a heated pool, something along the lines of like Petersfield and other Lidos in the area, kind of makes me feel a bit ill. And I know I'm really sad that the Pyramids are shutting, and everyone knows that. But I feel like if this is what you want to do, this is what you want to do. My kids are going to enjoy the soft play. I'm going to enjoy the soft play as well. And I feel like it will bring people to the area, and I guess we can all just look forward to the building being knocked down in 10 years as well. I'll be there for that, but cool, thanks.
Thanks, Claire. And since you've raised a couple of points that I haven't necessarily covered off in my closing comments shortly, where the Lido's concerned, I went to see Sabrina and Helen at the Trust there. I think it was either the first or the second week that I was the Cabinet member. And I've been in regular contact with them ever since. The council's been helping them. We've been giving them some advice over amending the lease that they have so that they can get a statement from us to be able to get a better, more stable and permanent tenant into the Blue Lagoon space, or come to a more permanent arrangement with who they've currently got. That's their decision, of course, because they're independent. The council did put quite a bit of resource behind their coastal communities bid, and we worked cross-party on that with Penny Mordaunt, who also championed them. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful. We did actually say that if they had secured the bid, we would have looked to bring an urgent report to put match funding towards that, and using corporate contingency, because we should never lose a multi-million-pound investment in year at the council just because something wasn't already in capital, and that would have meant a consultation at the time. and probably a decision by full council, but we would have made that pledge. And in front of coastal communities and the Lido, I said that if that figure needed to be £250,000, we would find that money. So I'm on record as saying that. But they are an independent trust. We can support and advise them. I'm very encouraged that they've got some new trustees in with some a new take on the site. Probably, I think it's fair to say that Sabrina and Helen have worn themselves to the bone on that site over the last 10 years or so. But they've got some new energy there now to help them as they move forward. They've got some financial resilience due to, ironically, to coronavirus, which has enabled them to access a couple of grants. But there's a lot of work to do. But the council will, should they be putting forward another coastal communities bid or another funding opportunity arises, we will make sure that we work very closely with them. And I would love the opportunity for this council to be able to put some match funding towards a bid that they put forward and see that facility significantly improved. So you have my reassurance on that. In terms of I do cover this more or less in the report, but in terms of the provision in the southeast of the city, we are in a really difficult position in terms of what's becoming a merging picture, and we still have not got yet, as I said to you at the briefing, I was hoping to have it by now, the updated additional condition survey that we've had to do on Eastney due to a storm earlier in the year, where it appeared that there was significant damage to the structural integrity of the roof. We are expecting that report back within the next couple of weeks, and that's why you'll have seen that there's a request gone in for an additional culture, leisure and economic development meeting so that we can update you on the situation with that at that point, and then let you know exactly what we'll be doing moving forwards. But it is going to be important, and I'll reconfirm this shortly, that we free David up to go and have as many conversations as possible over the next couple of months to make sure that we've got all the options available to us. And I'll explain to you shortly how we're going to take those options forward and make sure that we can communicate with the community properly. So thank you for your comments. Chris or David, did you have anything that you wanted to answer in response to any of the comments raised by councillors? Anything that addresses any concerns? You don't have to, I'm just offering you the opportunity of.
I've got nothing specific, but other than to offer our support in terms of insight and data as you look to develop other venues across the city.
Okay, thank you. And I am aware, incidentally, that Councillor Calcorkery asked for a specific briefing on all the background behind the Pyramids decision, and that Chris spent some time going through that with him. If anyone would like to go through anything in detail with Chris, I'm sure he'd be very happy to spend some time with you going through any of the detailed information that helps underpin this. David, anything from you?
Just to say that the next thing to happen will be the appointment of the principal contractor for the pyramids, and we're expecting that to be done by the end of next week. So I'll let you know who that is as soon as I know who it is.
Okay, and I am aware that we've got Rob Cunningham with us today. Rob, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing that Chris hasn't already mentioned. Thank you, Councillor Pitt.
Okay. Members, you'll be aware that normally in my portfolio decision meetings, I don't have too much to say because we've said at the briefing, and obviously I meet with the officers on a weekly basis, so I'm very well aware of what the work that's ongoing and what they're doing. But I think that in the interests of openness and transparency, which has been a bit of a pain on this particular project, I think it's fair to say, and has made some of this very uncomfortable and very difficult, I am going to make a statement so that it's on the record and that everybody knows exactly what has underpinned the process that we've come to right now and where we're at and why, so that any members of the public watching the live stream or anyone who's made a deputation today has their questions answered. So I'll ask for your indulgence while I just read that statement. Built in 1988 with an expected lifespan of 30 years, the Pyramids has had a difficult history. Successive operators failed to make it work, and by the late 2000s, the Council, DC Leisure, Parkwood and Southsea Community Leisure had all racked up significant losses. Millions were invested, but the wet side of the offer continued to slowly decline, and the Plaza and Glasshouse failed to attract the business that they had at their height in the 90s, when I also was one of the clubbers there and one of the regular gig goers. The materials and design of the building, problematic almost from day one, began to become quickly outdated. It is a simple fact that no one would ever build the Pyramid Centre today. Its carbon footprint is appalling. The fun pools are hugely expensive to operate, prone to regular closures for maintenance, and the staffing cost to operate it safely when those staff are actually available is simply immense compared to a conventional pool. As far back as 2008, closure was considered. Other uses were considered: ice rink, roller rink, Eden Project style attraction, and even a church. Options were looked at to demolish it and build a new leisure centre, a hotel, or even just to level the site and return it to open space. There was heated political debate. No alternative options could be made to stack up financially, and the centre limped on, with the lone success being the introduction of the gym in 2010. So it is simply not true to say that this council has suddenly made a decision that nobody was expecting and nobody was aware of. All that had happened was a very large can had been kicked down a very long road and, in my view, achieved very little other than to delay the inevitable. In 2013, at the time when the centre was really on a knife edge over its future, BH Live came forward to run the facility without a management fee for a period of 5 years. In May 2018, I became the Cabinet member and was made aware of the sports facility strategy for the city prepared in 2017, the previous year, for my Conservative predecessor by independent consultants, the leading in the country on strategic leisure. And they identified the need to consider urgently the future of the pyramids and Eastleigh, given their condition and age. I was worried when I read the report, and I believe that we needed to take this seriously. No capital money had been allocated in the council's budget in the previous 4 years. There was spend due to the insurance monies after the flood, but this only enabled some mild, minor cosmetic improvements to the customer-facing areas. The centre was clearly in decline. In summer 2018, following a personal visit to the centre, at which I was appalled at the state of it, I wanted to know what we needed to do, and a condition survey for the pyramids was commissioned. It indicated that there was an urgent need to secure a capital injection of 1.33 million just to continue operating, but not to improve the customer experience significantly. It would have tarted up the flumes in terms of a public perception. A further £620,000 would also be needed over the next 5 years, but again, just to stand still. Conversations with the then CEO of BH Live made it clear that they would not be seeking to renew their management contract for the site without this investment and additional money as to improve the public areas. In the budget round of 2018, I secured 1.4 million to ensure the pyramids could remain open. This was passed at the 2019 full council meeting in February as part of the council's 2019 to 20 capital budget. Also in 2018 to 19, as part of essential maintenance works, £300,000 was spent to renew the fire alarm, which was obsolete, without which the centre would have had to have closed at that point. In spring 2019, the new BH Live CEO expressed concerns about the condition of the pyramid site and urged caution in spending the 1.4 million allocated to the pool. The reason will become clear over the summer. Knowing that the BH Live contract on the pyramids was reaching an end, and now anticipating that any renewal might not be easy to achieve, it was decided that we needed to update on the 2017 consultants report to make some recommendations on the best way forwards that would ensure that we could secure a high quality leisure provision for Portsmouth that was financially sustainable. Over the summer and into autumn 2019, with the 5-year management contract on the pyramids drawing to a close and a forensic investigation by BH Live into the operation of the pyramids during their tenure as operator, losses of £1.8 million over the period were then reported to PCC. It became clear that BH Live would not renew their contract on the previous terms. An agreement was reached, however, for them to continue to operate the centre on an open book basis, which means the council picks up the operating loss, while BH Live asked for time to put together a proposal that might save the centre from closure. I agreed to consider all alternatives that will keep the centre open as an attraction for families. It is important to note that if at this point a new operator had been sought instead, anyone coming forward would have been entitled to see the books and would be fully aware of the scale of the losses. In addition, it was felt extremely unlikely that even without the financial picture being quite so grim, any operator would step in to take over any operator would not step in to take over a single loss-making centre which doesn't have free parking when the city's facilities were under one operator and all had free parking. This is not a commercial offer for anyone else to seriously consider. During the winter 2019 to 20, BH Life honed proposals for what we now know as a giant adventure play centre, incorporating soft play, climb and bounce for a range of ages, the largest such project in the region, and for an expansion to the gym, the one part of the Pyramid's business which was not loss-making, to offer a 5-star state-of-the-art fitness centre at 3-star prices to the people of Portsmouth. The proposal was informally presented to the Cabinet for consideration on the 10th of March 2020. I felt that this was important as this was a significant change and had no doubt whatsoever the scale of the contention that there would be around this issue. Before proper consideration could be given to next steps, just 10 days later we were in lockdown and all leisure pools across the country closed. To date, there is no indication when the Pyramids pool would be able to reopen as their operation cannot be COVID secure. During lockdown, the council faced some very alarming threats. Initial pledges by government to cover costs during COVID were later clarified to exclude commercial income, meaning that loss of income from the property portfolio of the council will not be met by any compensation from government, nor any drop in income from the commercial port, a significant contributor to the council's finances. As of today, that gap stands at £12 million, with a second wave of COVID now clearly upon us, and future and more uncertain than ever, with the transition agreement arriving over Brexit at the end of the year. What seemed just a few months ago as an urgent need to talk about the future of the Pyramids is now just one element of a much larger financial problem. The decision I had to make was in the context of knowing the Pyramids would need between 13.8 million and 14.8 million over the next 10 years. This huge investment will be unlikely to significantly increase swimming numbers due to the national decline of 24% in swimming over the last 10 years, and most notably a 14% decline over the last 3 years in Portsmouth. But this 14% excludes the Pyramids. The Pyramids itself has declined by 33%. And a lot of people have said that's been due to the closures for flooding. This was after that period. This investment would include a whopping £680,000 to £700,000 every year that does not exist within the council budget, and up to 4 million in upfront capital investment. And to what end? As I said at the beginning, the centre was built to last for 30 years. It is ageing and will eventually fail. It will be irresponsible to pour vast sums of money into any building just to knock it down. The condition survey did show that the basic outside structure was sound, so we do have an opportunity to keep the centre open for, hopefully, at least another 10 years, and do so in a way that provides a first-class family offer on the seafront and a first-class gym to help grow the already popular fitness offer and not require significant ongoing revenue subsidy. Would we love to keep the pools and plaza open? Of course we would. Can we? No. Much has been made of this decision not being consulted on with the public. My answer to that is consult on what? It would have been pure deceit to ask people if they wanted to keep the pool at the Pyramids. To what end? So that 3,000 people could sign a petition and say keep the pool, and then we had no option but to close it anyway. That is not consultation, that is lying to people, and I would have no part in that. Sometimes there are hard decisions to take. Sometimes the politics are irrelevant. Sometimes you have to do the right thing, not the easy thing. Sometimes you have to accept that you will be abused and insulted because that's just the nature of the job. It hurts, but what would hurt me far more would be to run away from my commitments and leave someone else to do what I was afraid to do, and that was take the right decision for the people of this city. That's not who I am. I don't run away. I stand and I stand by my decisions. Finally, I would say that the Seafront Master Plan talks about what the possible future for the pyramid site could be after the centre inevitably finally closes. Well, now we have something we didn't have. We have time. Time to think about what should eventually replace the pyramids and what the people of Portsmouth would like to see there, and time to consider how to take their ideas forward. Will there ever be a pool on that site again? Possibly. I want briefly now to turn to the other council pool in the southeast of the city to address concerns raised. Much has been made of the threat to Eastney Pool. The facility is over 100 years old. It is not disability compliant. It has communal changing facilities. The roof is in a dire state and there are structural issues. Again, it has a large carbon footprint. The existing pool needs to be either completely refurbished, rebuilt or replaced, and this administration is totally committed to ensuring that whichever of these options emerges viable, we talk to people and explain what is possible. We can do that because there is a choice. There are possibilities. On the pyramids, there weren't. Similarly, Wimbledon Park Sports Centre is in a very poor state. When I visited, I was ashamed that that is a facility that we open to the public in this city. It has not had the investment that was originally intended under the previous administration due to the failure of a planning application and needs a large investment over the next few years. Alternatively, it could close to help develop a new co-located pool and sports facility to replace the offer. If this latter course of action were to be followed, this would in fact fulfil the recommendations of the 2019 report from leading industry expert Strategic Leisure and have the potential to reduce capital liability, increase customers, increase revenue generation, better address the health and well-being priorities of the city and deliver better long-term value from capital investment. I have asked officers to explore all options available to the council and report back to the next meeting of this portfolio with an update on both Eastney and Wimbledon Park Sports Centre. Change isn't easy and it isn't always for the best. However, in this instance, there is an overwhelming case for ending a long period of sticking plasters over the problems and committing to a future based on sound and bold investment so that the people of Portsmouth are served by quality leisure facilities fit for this century for them and their families, not the faded icons of the last one. Thank you for your indulgence in listening to me today. It's been a very big issue and I felt that it was very important that there's somewhere online that anybody in the city who's concerned and wants to hear a full explanation has the opportunity to have that, as well as to hear your own comments, members, about this issue. We will have ongoing dialogue, I assure you of that, and you will be fully informed of all the ongoing discussions that take place and brought into the loop, as will the community and any affected parties. I've taken no pleasure in this decision, but I do stand by it, and I am convinced that in time it will be seen to be the right one. Thank you all very much for today, and thank you for Peter for supporting the meeting and to Lisa, and thank you particularly for Chris Simons and Rob Cunningham for coming along to support. And to those watching, I've done my best. Thank you. We have to wait for Peter to turn the recording off.